When I did move, I got a lot of messages from from people saying that I was very brave, and some people it was a little bit inspiration porny,
Mhm.
but there were people that were pretty close to me that were also saying how brave I was. And I asked one of my friends, I'm like, why does everybody keep saying that? It was something that I wanted to do, so I did it, and I understand that having a disability makes it harder, but
Mhm.
for a friend that isn't doesn't have an ableist mindset, I was a little confused about why they were also calling me brave. And if you think about it, pe people who don't have disabilities don't go places they want to go, as far as and so for anyone that does want to move across the state, it's not easy. And I would say that the one thing that you need to find is somebody that's willing to help you for 3 or 4 months for I'm gonna say quote unquote for free until you get your services set up. And I say quote unquote because she did end up getting paid for those months as a caregiver, but it wasn't until 3 months later, once everything was established, and then we could back do a back pay situation.
I don't think of myself as disabled, if that makes sense. Like, I know I'm disabled, but I don't have it in my mind. Like, I just do whatever I need to do, and I have this disability cloud, I guess you could say, raining down on me. I feel like a lot of disabled people have the ableism attitude about themselves and won't do anything, where they're chained down. But I feel like they can do much more, but they just don't want to. They just go, "Oh, I'm disabled. I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing." I don't know if you feel that same way.
I know exactly how you feel, and I've always, I guess, been grateful that I have people that I guess also have that same mindset where it's almost like they don't treat me like I'm disabled. And also I've been told by people that they forget I'm disabled, which is such a
Mm-hmm.
weird concept because there was also a situation where I had a customer call me a robot once in front of my manager, and it was our head
Okay.
manager of the store. And I yelled at her, and she was explaining to her 4-year-old daughter that my wheelchair was a robot. And I was like, don't tell her
Huh?
that my wheelchair is a robot. I'm not a robot, I'm a human. And I was like, that's how I said it to her, kind of aggressively. And she's like, oh, no, no, she doesn't know. I was like, don't tell her that I have a disability and this is a wheelchair. Do not tell her that I'm a robot. That's rude.
Would you say most people treat you normally or the same as a regular able-bodied person?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever know the answer to that. Yeah, of course, there's always that internalized ableism that they
Mm-hmm.
are looking at me a certain way, or they are treating me a certain way, or you know what I mean.
I'm not a robot, guys.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever truly know. We can't read people's minds, so it's just all a judgment call on I guess the ways that we want to be treated. If we want, I think there are some people with disabilities that want to be treated a certain way because of their disability. So in that sense, if they are getting that treatment, then I don't know. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It started I guess the depression, anxiety started because I would go to bed every night being really worried about my services, when I first moved, getting
Mm-hmm.
services set up. I was on the phone at for hours every single day trying to get everything up and going. And it was in I just felt like I was constantly having to fill out paperwork or talk to a counselor or explain to somebody why I needed help, or you know what I mean, why I need assistance, or just stuff like that. And then I would go home, and my roommates would just kind of be sitting there bored and doing nothing, and don't know what to do with their time. Whereas I'm sitting there stressing about who's gonna get me up in the morning. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think being in that situation of almost jealous that they had nothing to worry about, making friends was
Uh,
even harder because I felt mentally, physically, I can't really do anything to make myself less disabled, right? But mentally, it was like when I was talking to people or hanging out with people or trying to make friends with people, in my mind, I tried to make myself less disabled. I don't know how I thought I was going to do that or in what way I thought it was possible because, like I said, like I can't make myself less
Mm-hmm.
disabled. But in my mind, it was almost like that's what I thought I had to do or had to be or had to act like in order to make friends.
Ableistic mindset, like, oh, I'm disabled, I'm just not gonna do anything, and just like watch time go by, or like me and you are trying to like actively
I
make
mean,
our lives work, regardless of how hard it is.
I'm sensing a lot of like your own and personal internalized ableism. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's just the way that like you're saying like they can't do this or they can't live on their own or they can't live jobs. But like I don't see it that way. I see it that like society is the reason they can't do those things. It's not their disability. It's the fact that we live in a very ableist society and like if they were given the right tools and resources and care that they deserve, they wouldn't have to live under the care of their parent. I know tons of people on a wide spectrum of cognitive disabilities that live on their own with 24-hour care and they have jobs. But I mean, I think my mom kind of taught me that, like, once you're an adult, like, you're on your own, and that doesn't mean like she wasn't there for me or she said no to helping me. But I think I was just in this
Mm-hmm.
mindset, like as an adult, I had to figure it out. And I mean, I know if I needed her, if I went home, like she was still there for me. But like, yeah, I think it's hard being a parent with a disabled child just because I think I mean, there's a huge gray line and I don't think there's a great understanding of like if your child wasn't disabled, at what point are you gonna like let them start dressing themselves or making their own choices of like
Mm-hmm.
what shoes they want to wear, what jacket they want to wear that day? You know what I mean? And so I can't say my mom gave me that flexibility to make a lot of choices when I was growing up, but she gave me the right mindset to like be independent.
Hello, welcome to my podcast, 2.1 Joe Stooch. I am Joe Stooch. I'll be giving a mic to Sawsan. Sawsan has a neuromuscular disease called spinal muscular atrophy type 2. Sawsan is an actress and model who moved from Chicago to LA area. You can see her in ads like for Target and Dove Chocolate. If you could cure your disease but a random person had to die, would you press the button?
Wait, can you repeat that question?
Sure. So there is a button out there and if you press it, it could cure your disease, but a random person had to die. Would you press the button?
That's a good question. I don't think I would. Um,
No?
I
Okay.
I I mean, at this point in my life, like I've 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 got it good. Like I figured it out. I have everything that I need, and honestly, like I've thought about it before, and if I didn't have SMA, I definitely wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have the friends that I have. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have the job that I have. I wouldn't. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be as like good of a person, and that doesn't mean to make me sound vain, but like I think it's grounded me in a lot of ways. And also, I don't know this random person. Like I am not a murderer.
Well, it wouldn't be like I wouldn't like call you murderer, but it's just a thought, just something. You're actually the first person I asked that question, but I want to do it in the future. I think it's a good question to question where they are, I guess, morally, because I'm sure someone would be like, they press the button right away, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, are you a villain? I don't know, but I think it's a
Yeah.
good, I think it's a good question to ask just to like, would you do it to cure yourself? And I mean, personally, I would press the button because a random person, like, okay, like, I feel like there's more bad people than good people, so I just thought, hey, one bad person is not going to hurt anybody.
And I mean, yeah, like there are people who pass away every single day. I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer to that question because like everyone's living their own experiences.
Uh,
So,
no, I totally respect your opinion, and I think some people will agree with you and some people will not. But it's a great thought-provoking question. But to like talk about you a little more. So, I have here that you moved from Chicago to LA to pursue your career. You mentioned in a different podcast that you were working two jobs and you were broke, so why be broke and not pursuing your dreams? So you moved to LA. So like, let's talk about the massive undertaking and stress to move to a different country, not country, a different state, because like I require a lot of caregivers and they're very hard to come by, especially good ones. So like, how did you even like, are you crazy for moving across state lines?
Yeah, I mean, when I did move, I got a lot of messages from people saying that I was very brave, and some people it was a little bit inspiration porny, but there were people that like were pretty close to me that were also saying like how brave I was. And I asked one of my friends, I'm like, why does everybody keep saying that? Like, it was something that I wanted to do, so I did it. And like I understand that like having a disability makes it harder, but for a friend that like isn't doesn't have like an ableist mindset, I was like a little confused about like why they were also calling me brave. And if you think about it, like pe people who don't have disabilities like don't go places they want to go. Like as far as like moving
Mm-hmm.
out of their hometown and moving states is like a big deal. So I guess to me, I kind of thought like if it's something I want, I'm gonna figure out how to do it no matter what it takes. And I've always just like had that mindset. Now, as far as disability goes, yes, it does make it a lot harder. And I was really grateful to come across, I guess, like the greatest people that could have came with me. I ended up moving with one of my best friend who was also my roommate at the time too. We're still roommates now. And then another friend who went to the same camp as I did. And when I talked to her about moving, I was like, hey, like, when you get there, like you could be my PA, like we're both not gonna have jobs, like that could be a job for you. And then I quickly realized like I had to have another conversation with her saying, hey, actually, like, yes, you will get paid to be my PA. However, you're not going to get paid until I get my services set up. And I, like, didn't know that at the time until, like, I did some more digging and some more research. And she was amazing enough to be like, hey, that's totally fine. Like, of course, I'll still help you. And so, for anyone that does want to move across the state, like, it's not easy. And I would say that the one thing that you need to find is somebody that's willing to help you for 3 or 4 months for I want to like I'm gonna say quote unquote for free until you get your services set up. And I say quote unquote because like she did end up getting paid for those months as a caregiver, but it wasn't until 3 months later once everything was established and then we could back do like a back pay situation. It
Yeah,
was
I
a lot.
think you. No, I totally hear you. I totally see that. I think we do have to say. I think you were. I think luck comes into play that you had two incredible people to come with you. Because not many people are willing to have. It's hard to me make plans with my friends. I have to wait a month in advance. And we live in the same city. But imagine hey, like, hey, I'm gonna move across to a different state. Like, are you willing to come with me and like help me? Like, that's a huge conversation to have. And I'm, maybe I don't know about you, but maybe you even had a friend that said yeah, but then you actually like serious and you're like, uh, maybe not. Like, maybe I don't want to leave because I like it here. But yeah, it's in,
Well, so they were already like I didn't really have to like convince them to move. Like they it was something that they also wanted to do. So of course, like if you're
oh,
gonna move across the state, like it helps to like do it with other people, mentally, emotionally, and in our case, like physically, it could be easier. Even before she kind of like hopped on board, like I had no plan in my mind about like what I was gonna do about care. I was just kind of like I'll figure it out when
so
I get
okay.
there. Like yeah, I don't even know like yeah, so before she became a part of the conversation, like I was just gonna kind of, again, like I said, like figure it out when I get there. Like I wasn't gonna let anything stop me, and I was just kind of like, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah, so let's kind of backtrack a little bit. So what care do you require? Like, are you okay most of the day and did need help going to bed and getting out of bed? Like, how did a caregiver help you?
Yeah, so pretty much it. Like I have somebody come in the morning and in the night for a few hours, and they, yeah, help me get out of bed, get dressed, help me with like my hair if I need it. What else? Like laundry, cooking, cleaning. And then once they leave, like I'm pretty good throughout the day, can like leave my house by myself and get around Los Angeles pretty okay. Transportation kind of sucks here, but I make do. And then yeah, I also have a service dog. Right now he's still pretty young, so um there's more training than him helping me, but he does help me like pick my keys up off the floor and like my phone up off the floor and stuff like that. So
Well, I do have you do have a video where he cannot pick up a remote, and that's a little struggle for him.
so yeah, I so like if my roommate uses the TV and then like he'll leave the remote like on the couch or on the TV or on the coffee table, and so I wanted to teach my dog how to like bring me the remote wherever it was. So we're still kind of learning that. Like he's kind of got it down, but if he doesn't see the remote, then he'll start to just like bring me anything that's on the coffee table. So we're getting there, but he's got it
Okay,
pretty good.
that I mean, it seems like you have a pretty set system now that you seem like you have a pretty set system of living by yourself, but you do require someone to help you though. Like you can't, like if let's say no one shows up in the morning, you're like stuck there, right?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you where no one was able to come and you just had to sit tight for a while?
Honestly, I mean, I'm sure maybe it's happened once or twice, but like not off the top of my head, I can think of any situations. I've actually had two PAs show up at the same time one time, like for their because they both
Oh.
got their days mixed up, and so that was kind of like a wow moment. Like, oh, it's the opposite situation, where like no one shows up, and
Oh, okay.
that was like kind of
Right.
a
So what do you
cool.
do? You just use someone home, or do you just use both at the same time and split the
The
hours? Like I
person that
think they can do.
wasn't the person that wasn't supposed to be there, she left.
I thought you
So
could maybe like let's say you're working for 4 hours, you can do pay each of them for 2 hours, but since you're two people, they could do the work twice as fast. So like you don't need that as much.
yeah, and yeah, it would have been too complicated to like
Yeah.
have two people, and also like I don't have that kind of hours to do that.
No, I totally get it. Yeah, it's pretty impressive for any dis disability people. But I do want to touch on a point for like you mentioned about ableist attitude. And I don't know how you feel. Like obviously we're both just severely disabled in many ways, but I don't think of myself as disabled, if that makes sense. Like I know I'm disabled, but like I don't have it in my mind. Like I just do whatever I need to do, and I have like this disability cloud, I guess you could say, raining down on me. I feel like a lot of disabled people have this ableism attitude about themselves and won't do anything. Where like they're like chained down. But like I feel like they can do much more, but they just don't want to. They just go, "Oh, I'm disabled. I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing." I don't know if you feel that same way.
I know exactly how you feel, and like I've always, I guess, like been grateful that like I have people that I guess also have that same mindset where it's almost like they don't treat me like I'm disabled, and also like I've been told by people that like they forget I'm disabled, which is like such a
Mm-hmm.
weird concept because but yeah, which it's funny because like obviously I stick out like our disabilities stick out like a sore thumb, like it's not like you can't
Mm-hmm.
see it. And it actually the other day my manager I was some like customer came into our store and I work in retail and she was asking for me and she was like, "Oh, the girl in the wheelchair." She asked my manager like, "Where is the girl in the wheelchair? Like I want her to help me." And
Okay.
my aunt manager was like, "I we don't have anyone. Like what's her name? Like who are you talking about?" And I thought she was doing that when she was telling me the story, like I thought she was saying that so like she doesn't like identify me as like a person in a wheelchair as opposed to just like identifying me as like who I am. And so she keeps
Oh.
telling me, like, we don't have anyone in a wheelchair. Like, I don't know what you're talking. Like, nobody here work. Like, we don't have anyone here. Like, maybe you're talking about a different store. And she just kept saying, like, the girl in the wheelchair. And then another employee comes up to her and she's like, she's talking about Sawsan. and it was like a light bulb like went off in her head. She's like, "Oh yeah, she is in a wheelchair, huh?" And I did not expect the ending of that story
Huh.
to be that way, and it was so interesting. And I was like, "Oh wow, like that's flattering and interesting, like an interesting concept."
Yeah, I never heard of anyone not know who you are based on your wheelchair.
That was
It's such
definitely
a
a first for
distinctive
me.
part about you.
Yeah, like I've had little tiny weird things like in when I was in high school, my friend like forgot like she was walking in front of me and forgot to like hold the door open so the door like slammed on me.
Oh
And
my
then her
god,
response was,
that's
"Oh, I
funny.
forgot you were in a wheelchair." And I was like, "How do you forget?" And so it's like kind of little tiny things like that where and like I think for us like we can kind of tell when people are treating us a certain way because of our disability, you know? And
Mhm.
so in that sense, like I think that kind of helps me pick and choose like who I'm gonna get closer to as far as like what friends I choose to have and stuff like that. Yeah. Is that
Yeah, it's interesting that yeah, it's always interesting like to like when we meet someone we see their full self, like they're fully disabled. Obviously we're more disabled, so it's like much more like a much more noticeable. But yeah, it is interesting where people like just forget that you are disabled and they're just kind of like they normally talk to you. If that makes sense. It's like such a weird. They just like disappear in a way. Like the disability part, like it disappears from the person. They're just like, oh, this is normal Sawsan, normal Joe Sue. It's like it's weird. I understand why it happened, but it's just like weird. But I wonder if we're also in an age where like people are afraid to distinguish us as a disability person. So like I think you both realize there are a lot of people that are like, don't call us disabled, don't call us handicapped, and we get all upset about it. But I feel like in a normal situation, if like when you were talking about the story, like if someone say like I want the girl in a wheelchair, like I'm not gonna take it offensively. It's just something to distinguish you by that's more distinguishable than if I say a woman in dark hair, there's like you narrowed it down to what 50% of the population. But when you say a girl in a wheelchair, it's like, oh, I know who she is. That's Sawsan.
yeah. Yeah, I go back and forth about it, and partially because like I also have like a very unique name, so I think people are gonna remember my wheelchair before they remember my name. So, but at the same time, like if a customer did come in like in a wheelchair and I was like going to get like an employee to help them and they were in a wheelchair, like I would describe them the same way I describe everyone else, and that's actually how we're trained. Is like, oh, guy in the black hat with like a rainbow colored shirt, as opposed to like guy in the wheelchair, because um, like it's just that's the way I describe all my other customers. Like I'm not going to do that differently for you, is you know what I mean? And so I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wonder
So,
that when I'm the customer, like if other people do that for me when I ask for help, do they say girl in the wheelchair or do they say like girl in the blue top or whatever?
well, That's interesting. You mentioned it about the story, I guess, policy of how you distinguish people. But like I would think like when you let's say a police person, like we're looking for a sick bed, they're not gonna say, a woman that's I don't know, they'd be like, I don't know, let's say 5 feet, not gonna do, they're gonna do more distinguishable. I'd be like, hey, there's a woman in a wheelchair and she's, acting crazy or something. Like they're not
I
gonna just
mean, maybe
be
you can
vague
also,
about it.
yeah, you can also maybe just add that to the list of why police suck. So, like, I don't know, like,
Yeah, I mean, well, like, what's your opinion on? So let's say, so let's say I walk into the store and be like, "Hey, I want the woman in the wheelchair." Like, so how do you react to that?
it wouldn't bother me. It just, I guess it makes me kind of question, like, and it doesn't like eat at me, but it kind of makes me wonder, like, what people are describing me as or saying when they're not in front of me. Like is the
Mm,
same thing that you would say in front of me the same thing that you would say behind my back? I think that's where it makes the most impact on like maybe how I see a person or how if I get offended by the statement is like by that. Does that make sense?
I think the thing you try and get at is like kind of the context of it. And like you can be
Yeah.
like you can be like, oh, I want the woman in a wheelchair. Like the tone of the voice can help too. So like, hey, there's a woman in a wheelchair and she helped me a lot. Like have her again. And or you can say like, this woman in a wheelchair and like, like she was horrible. Like it had a negative connotation to it. Give you a
Yeah,
touch.
so
So, yeah.
here's a great example. There was one time there was a customer who I went up to help, and like immediately the second she looked at me, she was like, "Oh no, I need an experienced worker."
Wow.
And I like it was kind of like I was still kind of new in my role when at that time. And so but then like I thought about it, I was like, wait, she doesn't know I'm new in my role. You know what I mean? She just took one look at me. So then I went to my manager. I was like, and at first I was like, oh yeah, yeah, of course. Like, let me get you a manager, whatever. So then like I took a second and I was like, wait, like she was discriminating against me. Like she doesn't know I'm new. So
Yeah.
she was either discriminating me for one of two reasons. Either because one, I'm a woman, because we see that a lot, or because I'm disabled. I'll never know the answer.
I was just hoping that in this story that you were the manager, so you did do like a rotation in your wheelchair, and they'd be like, "Hello, I am the manager. How can I help you?"
It took me a second to process. Like, if I had realized what was happening, like immediately when it
Mm.
happened, as opposed to like leaving the situation and immediately just like listening to what she said and getting a manager, I would have definitely questioned her and been like, "Why do you think I'm not experienced?" But like at the time, like
Are you allowed to say that according to policy? Because like the customer is always right, so it kind of like
not in our
triggers.
store. I'm constantly defending myself to customers.
Okay. I mean,
And
I think if you have a good manager or a manager that's more, I guess, self-aware, I guess it could give you like leeway, like, hey, like she's yelling at the customer because not because she's being rude, but like there's a reason why she's acting that way.
no, yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything. I literally just said hi to her. Hi, my name is Sawsan. I'm here to help you today. And that was her response to me. And so my managers are actually really great where like they allow me to like, I guess they allow us to defend ourselves to the point where they defend us to the customers as well. And actually,
Hmm.
like the manager, when she went to talk to this person, she was like, well, Sawsan is just as experienced as everyone else. So like if you don't want her to help you, then like you can leave. So that's kind of how our managers work, which I really appreciate. There was also a situation where I had a customer call me a robot once in front of my manager, and it was like our like head
Okay.
manager of the store, and I like yelled at her, and I was like, she was explaining to her 4-year-old daughter that my wheelchair was a robot. And I was like, don't tell her
Huh?
that my wheelchair is a robot. Like, I'm not a robot, I'm a human. And I was like, that's how I said it to her, kind of like aggressively. And she's like, oh, no, no, like, she doesn't know. I was like, don't like tell her that I have a disability and this is a wheelchair. Do not tell her that I'm a robot. That's rude. And my manager was like right there and he watched the entire thing and like, he just kind of looked at me. He's like, I'm so sorry that just happened. Like, do you need a break? Like, go to the back and like, like he wasn't like, hey, you can't talk to the customers like that.
Oh, so you got reprimanded.
No, no, no. No, he let me take a break, like to be like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, not the customer. He
Okay.
was completely like in defense of me and like
Mhm.
apologized to me. But like you're saying, it could have been the other way around where they were like, hey, don't talk to the customers that way, but he didn't do that. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I have that space.
It's, it's such so weird to call a wheelchair a robot. I never ever heard of that in my life, so I'm just like, huh? You know,
Super weird.
like I, I'm a very like quick to speak kind of person, but like, if someone to call a wheelchair, I wouldn't even know what to say. I would just be like, what? Did she just say that?
I immediately was like, don't, like, I'm a human. I'm not a robot. Do not explain to your 4-year-old daughter that is just understanding the world that people in wheelchairs are robots. That is asinine.
Yeah, that's horrible, especially to talk to a 4-year-old because that's where they're the most impressionable.
Yeah, and like you're trying to teach them like about people in the world, and that's not really a good way to teach them. So that one really pissed
Yeah.
me off.
Well, great on
Really
you for defending yourself because there are a lot of people that, especially in the disability community, they don't do anything. They just like absorb a lot, but give, they don't lash out at anyone because,
not me.
I mean, no, it's great. That's great that you do, and it's an individual fight that you attack the problem there instead of just bitching about it online and then, but not, you're not doing anything to change it. You're actually, I hope she changes her tune about disability people because it created to say it's a robot. Like, okay.
So weird. Like, who says that?
I now I can, every time I see a wheelchair person, I just kind of want to think of a robot now. I know it's horrible, but
Yeah, I
like,
weird
it,
concept.
well, it seems like you're in a community where, yes, you were, I mean, you could also be negating all the negativity, but it seems like, in my life, it seems most people are just like, okay with my disability. They might not directly show that, like, negativity towards me. Like, I do get, like, oh, like, we're maybe be good friends, but, like, they want to be friends with me because of my disability, but they're not, like, rude to me, so that a similar experience to you, like people are okay with you for the most part. Like you might have more difficulty like making friends or like dating, which is normal. But like, would you say most people treat you normally or the same as a regular able-bodied person?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, of course, there's always that like internalized ableism that like they
Mm-hmm.
are looking at me a certain way or they are treating me a certain way or you know what I mean?
I'm not a robot, guys.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever truly know. Like we can't read people's minds, so it's just like a judgment call on like I guess like the ways that we want to be treated. If we want, like I think there are some people with disabilities that want to be treated a certain way because of their disability. So in that sense, like if they are getting that treatment, then like I don't know. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, we just will never know the definite answer. It'd be cool if we had like a day where we can like switch with non-disabled people and just like see a whole different world.
Yeah, and when I did first move to LA, like making friends in Los Angeles is not easy, whether you're disabled or able-bodied or anything. And
Oh,
I
LA is
remember,
horrible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where are you? You said you're in.
Oh, I'm in New York City, but I've been to LA and I just hear stories
It's
like it's just a dog eat dog world and like no, like they only friend with you if you have like a lot of money or like a large following. If you're nothing like that, then they don't give a shit about you. Like
yeah,
they just trip over you.
yeah, that's pretty spot on. And when I first moved here, like I said, like whether you have a disability or not, it's hard to make friends in LA. It's hard to make friends when you move cities. And I remember like being very like my confidence was just torn to shreds. I was very
Huh.
insecure. I was depressed. I had anxiety. And
Before you move forward, were you anxiety and depressed because you were moving to a new state, or was it that you were like that before in Chicago, and you were hoping a new place would, I guess, re-spark you to? I'm assuming now you're more confident now, right?
yeah, it would no, I left Chicago and like a new knowing when I left Chicago, I knew I was leaving a very like perfect situation that I was in. I had, like a great group of friends. My family was there. I had a great apartment. Like, I had a good community of people around me. If I
Mm-hmm.
was ever in a situation where like a caregiver couldn't help me, then like I had like somebody that I could call that was 10 minutes away that probably could. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I was leaving a perfectly good situation. I was in a great headspace. I just wanted to change. And LA just chewed me up and spit me out.
Oh,
And it started, like, I guess the depression, anxiety started. because I would go to bed every night like being really worried about like my services, when I first moved, like getting
Mm-hmm.
services set up. Like I was on the phone at like for hours every single day trying to like get everything up and going. And it was in like I just felt like I was constantly having to like fill out paperwork or talk to a counselor or explain to somebody like why I needed help or you know what I mean, like why I need assistance or like just stuff like that. And then I would like go home and my roommates would just kind of be sitting there bored and doing nothing and like don't know what to do with their time. Whereas like I'm sitting there like stressing about like who's gonna get me up in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think being in that situation of like almost like jealous that they had nothing to worry about made me feel shittier. And so that kind of, I guess, started like my depression, anxiety, and then like making friends was
Uh,
even harder because I felt like mentally, like physically, I can't really do anything to make myself less disabled, right? But mentally, it was like when I was talking to people or hanging out with people or trying to make friends with people, in my mind, I tried to make myself less disabled. I don't know how I thought I was going to do that or in what way I thought it was possible because, like I said, like I can't make myself less
mm-hmm.
disabled. But in my mind, it was almost like that's what I thought I had to do or had to be or had to act like in order to make friends. But again,
I
like I
mean,
can't, yeah.
just talking to you and just talking to you, like you say, you have like a good group of friends and stuff. So I just feel like the best way would have been to be yourself. So I feel like if you can do it in one place, you could definitely do it in another. So I feel like LA is just a shitty place to be right now for anybody, and they're
Yeah.
just spitting you out constantly. I mean, do you feel better now since everything's in place now?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a much better place now, mentally and physically and emotionally. There's still some things I'm getting over, but I mean, no one's perfect. Everyone's kind of going through their own dark little battles and things.
I mean,
So,
LA is a place that you want to live for a long time, or are you like kind of looking for a new place to go?
I think Atlanta might be my next move. We'll see.
Mm,
I
nice.
don't, I really like California. I don't like Los Angeles.
Yeah, I only been to LA, and then everyone always talks about like the cool parts, but I feel like the cool parts are not even that cool. There'll be like one block that's really like cool, and then the rest of it is just like shit, and it's like
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
you're in New York, so like I feel like everyone talks about like how amazing Times Square is. They do the same thing with Hollywood. They're both crappy places to be. Like Times Square is
I,
not my
I
favorite
think you
part.
will love. I think you will love New York though.
Oh, I love New York. I love Manhattan. I hate Times Square.
Yeah, but I think you could get along pretty well in New York. I think you'll have a much better experience than LA. I feel like people are like nicer here.
So I love the East Coast. I could see myself living in New York, except I can and I can't. I do not like how inaccessible New York's public transportation is. That is one thing I loved about Chicago, and I'm so upset that LA doesn't have a good public transit system because in Chicago, that's how I preferred to get around. Like, I don't want to drive in a big city. It's less
Well, if you,
convenient.
well, I can speak on that. So if you're in Manhattan and the buses are actually really good in Manhattan. I always just take the bus for public transportation because it's always accessible and you don't have a problem. I You could take the train, but I just don't risk it because there's too much stress involved. Because if you're stuck on the ground and you have to transfer to something else, there's a lot of stress in that, so I don't recommend
That's
taking the
what
train for that. But there is a website that shows you like what elevators are working and such. But if you do live in Manhattan, you can take the bus and you can go anywhere basically in the city. That's what I've been doing. I've been traveling a lot, and it's been really great. Like it's super easy to do. Like you can get on a bus in less than like 30 seconds and you're good to go.
yeah, and I get
I don't
that.
know if that's gonna sway your decision, but transportation is pretty good.
I mean, I get that. Like the buses are great, but like I hate that I'm limited to just the bus. Like I want to take the train. In Chicago, I
Okay.
would take the train. And like not every train station in Chicago is accessible, but most of them are. And we also have a similar system where they tell us what elevators are running and which ones are broken. But I don't want to be limited by just the bus because sometimes taking the bus is also annoying, depending on what time you take
Mm-hmm.
it.
True. I totally get it. Yeah, it's just like an option, I guess. I just can't
Yeah.
wait to see a post like, guess what, guys? I'm moving to New York City. Where are all my New York friends at?
Yeah, if I moved to the East Coast, I probably would move to Pennsylvania. Well, I guess Atlanta is also East Coast, so I guess that would be
Ah,
if I moved to the East Coast, it'd be Atlanta.
well, I can't speak for Atlanta, but that'd be cool. That seems like a cool place to be. I've never been. I've never been to Chicago either. And well, I also never been in LA as a more severely disabled person, so I can't speak for the. But just based on your experience with transportation, I don't think it's great to live there. But obviously, there are disability people in LA, and they're making it work, not just you, like others. Somehow, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people have cars here, which
Yeah,
Chicago and New York, that's not really, you know what I mean? Like
no,
Chicago and New York, you could be 32 years old and never have a driver's license, and it's not like a weird thing, you know?
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's cool just to, I mean, we're both disabled. It's hard, but it'd be cool to be a regular able-bodied person, live like in Chicago and New York, and you can kind of just go anywhere you want within a short amount of time. And it's just like
Yeah,
it's so it's so like cool, and it's feel like it's almost like a privilege because like if you lived in like the suburbs or like out there, like hey, you want to go to Taco Bell, you gotta go and get it in your car and drive there. But like here, you can like walk to the supermarket or Dunkin' Donuts or oh yeah, you don't have Dunkin' Donuts on your coast.
yeah, and like, even like when once you go to the suburbs, you don't have Uber and Lyft anymore, too.
True, that's a big one. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's really
Mhm.
convenient. Except at 2 in the morning, if you're calling a wheelchair van. Actually, if you're in Manhattan, it's okay. Once you start going out and out of boroughs, then it get a little
Yeah.
difficult. So, but I think that's really hard to do. Disable. I just wheel. Yeah, it's just really hard. I wish we could make it better, but like you just put up with the shit, even though you're gonna go out regardless of how shitty it is. Like you'll deal with it at the time. Like if you want to go to the party, you're gonna go to the party no matter what, and then just gonna maybe it'll spoil your night at the end a little bit, but you're still gonna do. Like, we're not gonna put the ableism mindset. We're gonna do the shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the mindset I have. And I mean, you're right. Like taking the train, even in Chicago, is a little bit stressful because there are times you just show up to the train station and the elevator doesn't work. And like, it's just, it takes more time because then I also have to wait for like the conductor to like put the ramp out. So sometimes in that time that I'm waiting for like somebody to come help me, like that train left and I have to wait for the next one. And so
Oh
there is still
no.
a little bit of stress to it. And like I'm always just like staring at this like flight of stairs and I'm like, man, if only I could just take this flight of stairs up to the train's platform, like it would make my life so much easier.
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes it's annoying when you see like a staircase that's only like 4 steps or something, and you're just like, in your mind, you're just like, should I just like floor it and just like hope for the best?
Yeah, yeah. Or sometimes like I'll look around and be like, what purpose does this four steps have? Like this is so unnecessary.
But yeah. So let's talk about your camping. I know you're a big camper. So you were once a president for a camp called Association of Hope, and you had abandoned your duty because you were moving and you wanted a clean slate.
Association
So
of
like,
Horizon.
oh, is that Horizon? Oh,
Yeah.
whoops. Okay. So Association of Horizon. So like, let's talk about camp because I've been to camp and it was pretty fun, but also a bad experience just because I don't know if you ever had the experience, but like I would group with other disabled people, but I would also group with people who are mentally not there. and the thing is I could never get out of the group because I was just grouped together. And then like sometimes people would see that I'm really intelligent, but like they still have the, oh, you're in this group, so I'm still gonna treat you as the same as these people. You ever have that kind of experience for yourself?
What camp did you go to?
Called camp. I don't know. I don't think it exists anymore, or it's really small. Somewhere in New York, and I think it was upstate New York. So I don't know. It's not like those famous camps at all or anything. But yeah, it was just
Do you
yeah.
have a type of
So,
muscular dystrophy?
what?
What's your disability?
So my disability is called FOP, where I can, where my where bones will grow in my muscles, so I can't move my body. So like I'm like 95% frozen, basically. But like the weird thing about my disability is that when I was growing up, I wasn't always fully disabled, so like I could walk to like the age of like 18, so like didn't need a wheelchair or anything. But I had the best thing about me that my arms were frozen to the way they are now, and I also needed to be treated with a little more care because kids can be reckless and stuff. So when you're once you're disabled, you're kind of weak group of the disabled people. So like, hey, and then during the summer, like, what are you gonna do for the summer? Like, you gonna sit at home all day? No. So my mom put me in the camp with all the disabled people because they like understand your condition and all that. So like, yeah. So
How
like,
how old were you when you went to camp?
I would say I was like 10-ish, 8 to 10.
Okay. Okay, so even when you were walking, you were like showing symptoms of a disability.
Oh yeah, like my arms were locked, so like I had that, and I had scoliosis, so it was pretty obvious that I was disabled, but I also wear hearing aids, so that didn't help at all. I also had a speech impediment, so like it feel like it's a lot common that if you have a physical disability, then you have a mental disability too. So like obviously people are not gonna treat you like a regular person, but
Is your disability a type like falls under the umbrella of neuromuscular diseases or no?
I don't think so. I feel like I think I'm in my own class of things because like my muscles are okay. It's just my repair mechanism is not okay. So like I could get surgery, but then more bones will grow in the places where you remove the surgery. So like doing surgery will just make it worse. So I'm not really sure if there is a category for it, but I don't think it's neuromuscular though.
Okay. The reason I was asking is because I went to when I started going to camp when I was 6, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So I guess like I was wondering if you that was the camp that you went to, but it doesn't sound like
Oh no,
it.
I went to like one that's like a group of like disability people. I don't know if you heard like a cook program. I don't know if you heard of that. Like I don't think there's like a United States kind of network, if that makes sense, of things. I feel
Mhm.
like every state kind of has their own special program, and only people in that state and disabled would know it. I guess it's a little strange, but yeah.
So I started going to camp when I was 6, and I went to the Muscular Dystrophy Association camp, which was a summer camp for kids with muscular dystrophy or types of neuromuscular diseases. And I went there until I was 18. And the camp that I
That's,
currently go to is for adults with physical disabilities. And it's not just
oh,
specific to muscular dystrophies or neuromuscular diseases. It's any type of physical disability. So we have a lot of like cerebral
okay,
palsy, stroke survivors, or stuff like that, where, and of course, neuromuscular. And so the people that went to like MDA camp when they aged out and they started becoming adults and they couldn't go to this kid camp anymore, they were like, well, we still want to go to camp. So, like, what do we do? And so that's where the Association of Horizon was formed, and it's been going on since I think 1992. And so I joined like about 12 years ago was when I was started going, and then I joined the board pretty quickly, and then I was president for a year, and then and yeah, it's an amazing camp of just every disability and every type of person you could possibly think of. It's really cool.
I mean, it's great that you had a good experience. Yeah, I think it. I'm just assuming that your disability doesn't affect anybody's mind, so I feel like everyone's kind of on the same page of terms of intelligence, but also disabledness. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so my disability doesn't affect me cognitively. Yeah, but at our camp we have all spectrums of like physical and cognitive disabilities. But they, as long as they have a physical disability, so like people with cerebral palsy, it's usually kind of like a mix between physical and cognitive.
Yeah.
And so we kind of see a wide spectrum of disabilities.
I mean, I don't. It's hard to say if I had like bad luck or how it worked. Just I don't know. It's just like that's kind of like one of the reasons why I like stayed away from the disability community for so long because there's always group with like the you could say like dumber ones or not cognitively there, and like it's shitty to say, but like you're down by the weakest link of it, and I feel like I had a high place I wanted to go, but I couldn't go with the community, so I had to break away and get like there. I do know a lot of people that did go to school with and such, they're not able to live lives at all. Like they have to be under the care of a parent because they're just not able to handle the real world of it. Like they can't get jobs at all. They just don't know how like the world works, like paying taxes and such
I
and,
mean,
relate, like relationships and all that. So like, I mean, I think for me it was personally good because I was able to be with regular people and I can understand the world more and such. Or by do looking back, I do know a lot of these people, like probably maybe they went to college, but they're not doing anything now really worthwhile doing. They're just sitting at home, and I think it kind of go back to where we were started in the beginning, where like they're sitting in that ableistic mindset, like, oh, I'm disabled, I'm just not gonna do anything, and just like watch time go by, or like me and you are trying to like actively
I
make
mean,
our lives work, regardless of how hard it is.
I'm sensing a lot of like your own personal internalized ableism. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's just the way that like you're saying like they can't do this or they can't live on their own or they can't live jobs. But like I don't see it that way. I see it that like society is the reason they can't do those things. It's not their disability. It's the fact that we live in a very ableist society and like if they were given the right tools and resources and care that they deserve, they wouldn't have to live under the care of their parent. I know tons of people on a wide spectrum of cognitive disabilities that live on their own with 24-hour care and they have jobs and they live on their own. So, I mean, I disagree.
No, I think it's just kind of the way you get brought up into it too. If you're always in the mindset of being taken care of, like why would you want to get rid of that, if that makes sense? Like why would you want to remove comforts of your life? And if there's no one really to push you to do it, get like I mean, I can't speak for you, but I feel like you were like, hey, I'm gonna move over to LA and pursue that. I feel like you had like the motivation and drive to do it. I feel like some just don't have that motivation and drive. And like, why would you want to leave a comfortable place? They'd rather just be where they are now. But like, I think in the long run, it doesn't. I don't think it makes you happy. I feel like if you stay where you were in Chicago, I don't think you'd be happy. But I think you're happier now. Besides all the setbacks, I feel like you're happier now than you would just like stay at home and just stay in comfortness.
I mean, it's interesting that you think that when I was living in Chicago, I was living with my parents. I was.
Well, you say you were. I wouldn't say you were living with your parents, but you were surrounded by comfortness. So like if something went wrong, like you had your parents nearby to help you, and you said you had friends to help you, the caregiver didn't show up.
Yeah,
But
friends and
correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, my family, I didn't really have to reach out to them. I mean, maybe like a cousin, but never like my direct like mom or dad, which I think is what you're referring to, just considering that like those who
Mm-hmm.
were my main caregivers growing up. But I mean, I think my mom kind of taught me that, like, once you're an adult, like, you're on your own, and that doesn't mean like she wasn't there for me or she said no to helping me. But I think I was just in this
Mm-hmm.
mindset, like as an adult, I had to figure it out. And I mean, I know if I needed her, if I went home, like she was still there for me. But like, I think that there are people with disabilities that you know, don't leave their parents' home because of convenience or it's easier, or they don't feel like they can. But there are people without disabilities that do the same thing and they don't, like they're still living with their mom at 40 years old. For what reasons? It's the same thing.
Oh, no, I think it's yeah, I think it's just an interesting way to how to I guess the raising part of it too, because I think me growing up disabled people are coddled a lot, and if you just ask a regular able-bodied person at 18, like you gotta go make yourself do something, like you gotta look for jobs and stuff, like no one can really help you that much anymore. Like you mentioned before, like when you had to do your care, like you didn't have your parents, and you did it on your phone yourself, and you made sure everything was good, and as you wrote somewhere like, hey, like there was some caregivers that were okay to you, but like you didn't like it, so you went and hey, like I need someone else to do it. Like you went and took it. I think your family raised you well enough that you were able to be your independent self and like, hey, we'll help you, but like you also have to look out for yourself because we can't be there for you all the time, and you gotta live your own life. I think that's a great way to raise you and any disabled person.
Yeah, I think it's hard being a parent with a disabled child just because I think I mean, there's a huge gray line, and I don't think there's a great understanding of like, if your child wasn't disabled, at what point are you gonna like let them start dressing themselves or making their own choices of like
Mm-hmm.
what shoes they want to wear, what jacket they want to wear that day? You know what I mean? And so I can't say my mom gave me that flexibility to make a lot of choices when I was growing up, but she gave me the right mindset to like be independent.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an interesting concept that I think about a lot of like, when do you stop being a caregiver and just be a parent? I mean, sorry, when do you stop being a parent and just be a caregiver when it comes to, your child and letting them like figure it out on their own, or like making those like small decisions that like make them start to like figure out who they are.
Yeah, it's a hard decision, and it's also harder because every disabled person has a different set of challenges too. Some are more physically able, and some are less physically able. So, like, what is the cutoff point where, like, maybe they can't do it on their own? Like, it's just hard. It's hard to give like a direct answer to that question.
That's so, Joe, you're kind of ableist.
I think I am. Yeah, I'll admit it.
I mean, you're very focused on like, or like adamant that like people with disabilities can't do certain things. But like
Um,
even a person with a cognitive disability has the ability to make a choice. Even if it means like, do you want to wear the blue shirt or the green shirt? Like narrowing it down to like allowing them to like, have choices. That's still giving them what I described or what I'm explaining of
yeah, I
like
mean,
allowing them to figure
I agree
out
with.
their
So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's based on what I've been raised with and my experiences with, and I think also just talking to people, just being somebody in the disability world now. That I mean, it's great to meet you. That you're actually out there and pushing the envelope to prove, I guess, to prove me wrong that disability people can go out there and move to a different state and live on your own. So it's really impressive to do that. It's a it's always like I guess for me it's a constant battle of are they it's always a constant battle for me, like are they limiting themselves because of ableism, or is it an actual physical problem barrier and that they can be independent. It's always a conflicting battle of how to approach the topic.
sure, but it's not gonna help like if their own community is, also saying they can't. You know,
Uh,
like I mean,
well, I mean,
no matter who you meet, whether they have a disability or not, like you don't talk to the same way that you talk to like some of your girlfriends the same way you talk to your guy friends. You know what I mean? Like you're tailoring each experience and each conversation that you're having with every single person, regardless of their disability. So, like, if you look at it the same way with disability, you're doing the same thing. You're tailoring your conversations to fit their needs, and that's what this society and this world is missing. The ability to, like, tailor certain things to, like, make sure everyone is feeling like they can make a choice.
no, I agree with you. I'm just going based on my experience. So like I am a YouTuber, and I get paid by YouTube, which is really hard to do. And like I'll talk to like other creators and such. People will ask me like, how do I get 65,000 views a month and such? And I say you just gotta keep going for it. Like you gotta keep posting all the time. You gotta keep up with the regimen. One video a week. Have a schedule of it. And like I'll meet people and they're like not wanting to put the effort into it. They'll do one video a week and then they forget, or they do one video a month and then like not great, and then they'll be like, hey, how do you help me edit? And they don't want to take any advice at all. They just say, oh, it's just gonna take a Zoom call and just throw it up on YouTube and hope for the best. But like you have to edit it nicely and all
Yeah.
that, and it's like you write a description about a person and they don't write a description about a person, and so it's like you're not putting in the work. It doesn't even matter if you're disabled or not. You still have to put kind of a higher bar for yourself. And I try to help people, but they just don't want to put in the work, and they just think, oh, well, I'm just gonna, oh, this is too hard, so I'm just gonna give up. But like you have to try really hard to do a lot of things. So it's not even a disabled thing. It's regular people too. That sometimes a lot of them don't want to put in the work, and it's like, what do I do? Like, there's nothing I can do. I can give you advice. I'm, I want to help people, but like, I'm also like you. I want to help you, but I want to give you advice that you're actually gonna use. Not just like, oh, this is too hard. I'm not gonna do it. And it's like, like I just wasted my time trying to help you. Like, I have some success here. I'm not gonna do that. It just,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think,
you're right. Yeah, like you can
yeah,
only help people so much. Like they have to want to help themselves. Absolutely.
yeah. It is hard to just judge. So like let's say I did meet a disabled person. It's hard to judge. Like, are they not trying hard enough, or just are they lacking motivation? Are they just because there are some disabled people that are killing it right now. And it's just amazing to do. But then there's some it's like I don't know if this are they just not applying the effort to it, or just like what is just bottleneck to why they can't do something. Like I give everyone a benefit of a doubt, but I also have to see some kind of, I guess, proof that you're wanting to work it out instead of just complaining about it and not doing anything. Like move in a direction. If you fail, then you fail, but at least like I know that you're actively trying instead of just like, oh, I'm sitting at home not doing anything, like da da da, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it's like I don't know, but like I think I'll always be able to this. I'll miss that. I think it's just a normal part of being a human person. Like you could judge someone based on how they are. Do I'm not, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, I see a disabled person, I'm automatically dismiss them. It's also about context too. So like if I see you, like if I'm in a store and you come to me like, hey, how can I help you? I'm not gonna be like, oh, you can't help me because you're disabled. Like I'm gonna assume that you got hired for the job because you're qualified for it and you can help me. And if there's something you can't do, I would assume that you would be aware enough to say like, oh, I can help you, or I'll have to have someone, I don't know, grab it from the top shelf or something that you can't do. But I'll still talk to you the same because I feel like you were given that job for a reason, not just like, oh, you were just hired as a disability person because it's dumb. Like I feel like you're hired for your qualities and your experiences and all of that.
Yeah. You would think. I mean, that's like the hope, but people are not always like that.
Yeah, I know I'm an ableist, but like I'll listen to you, I'll like understand you, like hear you out, but it is hard to judge as a like if you just give me like let's say a resume, it's hard to say, oh this person's able, like get him out of here. I'm not. I'll give him a shot, but it's just I think I'm just too. I get painted with negative experiences of growing up, so it's nice that to meet disabled people who are actually doing amazing things. So like you're a great ambassador for the disability community. Like you actually went to a whole different state. You created a team of caregivers. That's really hard to do, even in your own state. You you're away from everybody. Like you don't have your two friends, but like you're
Yeah.
kind of surrounded by strangers, and you did it. So that's you're a great ambassador and great advocate. You're great first for me to show someone like, hey, you want to live by yourself? Check out this person's Instagram because she's doing great. Like she willing. It took her a lot of work. You know, she'll probably tell you all the shitty nights that she had that she'll probably never mention online. But like, she did it. Like, like so. What's your excuse? You know?
I definitely have had a lot of people in the disability community reach out to me and ask for advice on how to move states. So and I mean that's like one of the reasons or one of the motivations and inspirations of like wanting to get into the entertainment industry of like I'm very aware that like I'm a voice for people that like are scared to be a voice or whatever it is. And so I'm okay and happy to be that voice for people with disabilities to like let
Mm-hmm.
them know and like that they can do whatever they want to do. It takes the right mindset and honestly the right circle of people that you surround yourself with. It makes a huge
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of do it myself with like the YouTube thing. Like, I don't see a person like myself on YouTube, and like, I'm not gonna wait for someone else to look up to. I'm gonna be like, hey, I want to be the first person that does it. Or maybe there are
Yeah.
other people I just don't know. I want to be like, hey, if I think I can do it, that's like the only motivation I need. I feel like that's it for you too. If you believe in yourself, then it can happen.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, but it's all about you. So, before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote any words of wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Winning lottery numbers are 524.
Okay, I'm not sharing the winnings with you as a heads up.
That's all. I don't know.
You
Thanks for
can,
having
you
me.
can, yeah, you can say save 50% or more on car insurance by switching to Geico, whatever you want.
Oh man, I didn't come up with the tagline. One of my favorite quotes is, "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take."
By Michael Scott, right?
I don't think that's Michael Scott. Someone else. I think his name was
No,
William something.
no, it's Wayne Gretzky, and then it's Michael
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for giving me your time and expertise. With that, I liked a little discussion, and I guess agreement, disagreement, you could say. But thank you so much for everything, and thank you everyone for listening and watching, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.